Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Friday morning to you all. Hope you guys are having an awesome start to your Friday. If you're watching this later in the day, hope you guys are having an awesome start to your weekend. It is Friday. We're all happy, very happy about that. I know I am. It's been a long week. My family's been sick. I'm still feeling a little under the weather. And if you see my nose crinkle up at any time in this video, it's probably because I'm about to sneeze. And if I sound different, it's because I just have a little bit of a head cold. I'm feeling okay, but sickness has definitely kicked my family's butt. So if you hear any coughing in the background, it's probably my little girls or my wife. But we're going to try to get through this for you guys. There is a lot going on. In the beginning of this video, first half, we're going to talk about what I'm seeing, some of the overnight model guidance, and really how it's doubled down on this pattern change coming up. But there's a lot of things in between before we get to this pattern change. One is a multi-day severe weather event that's going to be happening for areas of the south, blizzard in the plains. And then there's also going to be the possibility, as this system tries to work its way to the eastern seaboard, it will, for a winter storm for the Northeast. Now, not even just the Northeast, but somewhere along the eastern seaboard. Now, we don't know for sure. There's going to be a small event before this. There's just so much going on, guys. So definitely, watch last night's video if you want a more in-depth video. But really, I'm going to get kind of detailed in this one also, and this is going to be the case moving forward. But I really appreciate the support. We're also going to talk about what's going to happen today because definitely a little event in the Midwest certainly overperformed. We got several inches of snow in areas of Iowa overnight. But if you guys have not subscribed, certainly hit that subscribe button for me. Like the video if you like it, guys. Liking that video does a lot more than I think what people realize. It helps the videos get out there in the algorithm, and it really helps these videos just reach more people. So certainly always trying to grow this channel and grow the family and get good people in here, and I really appreciate the support. I really do, guys. It seems like these morning videos oftentimes do better than the evening videos. I was a little not disappointed, but I definitely expected last night's video to do a little bit better than it did, but it's just the way it goes. So regardless, I'm going to keep pumping out the information with you guys and get as detailed as I can. But if you guys got anything that I can pray about, pray over, of course, put those in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can too, and I promise you others will. So, like I said, we'll talk about what's going on briefly right now, very briefly. There is a powerful, very little storm. When I tell you it's a little storm, it really is, but the precipitation associated with this is rather intense. In fact, you look at the radar just outside of Chicago, this is some heavy precipitation now. It's falling as rain in a lot of these areas. This is probably going to fall as rain in Chicago, but areas in this part of Iowa overnight, I think Sioux Falls picked up over a half a foot of snow. Got a lot of snow from this system. So this system is going to be part of a piece of energy that eventually works its way to the Northeast later this weekend. And we'll see if it overperforms for every areas of southern New England. We'll talk on that probably more so tonight. But this is one of those little small pieces of energies kind of mixed in between everything else that's coming up. So there's so many little things to talk about. There really is. We look at watches and warnings and advisories right now. Like I said, all those dense fog advisories continue. A lot of fog throughout the south and areas of the country. This is probably a freezing fog up here. But you see these areas in purple. That's winter weather advisories from this little piece of energy, this little cutoff low, getting trapped under this ridge. And it's really overperformed for certain areas. I think I actually mentioned last night or in yesterday morning's video that I thought that maybe we would get a couple winter storm warnings up for this. And we certainly did for about 5 or 6 counties right here in Iowa, or 7 counties. I don't know if I can count or not here this morning, but I think that's 7. But so it takes a lot to get a winter storm warning up here in Iowa this time of the year. So certainly need to continue to watch out. Most of this is continuing to move out and will move and kind of diminish and then maybe re-amplify for the Northeast later this weekend. Some changes with the severe weather outlook on the Storm Prediction Center here. They have dropped the risk as of right now. I'm sure there'll still be somewhat of a risk, but they have dropped the risk for Monday. And I talked about that last night, how it was looking like things really weren't going to get going Monday. And it's really doubled down on Tuesday, which is day 5. Still very uncommon to have an enhanced risk at day 5. I think somebody told me yesterday or in last night's video that we've only had 5 or 6 day 6 30% risk in history since doing this. So that's really impressive in a bad way. So there's still that 30% risk of severe weather occurring within 25 miles at any given point in this orange area. This includes Shreveport to Greenville, Mississippi, and all areas in between, just south of Little Rock. So this is certainly a big deal. Now, the new thing that's emerged is day 6, which is for Wednesday. we now have a 15% risk of severe weather in this area right here. So it's actually increased for Wednesday. And I really think this is due to the fact that low pressure is really beginning to shift a little bit further south. And we need to watch this as it continues to do so. And the reason we do need to watch this is because the more the low pressure shifts south, the more the severe weather, the highest severe weather threat shifts a little bit south, just due to the fact that the dynamics needed for all the severe weather, the ingredients gets kind of shunted south. So it's actually a good thing. I'm not going to say we're going to lose a severe weather threat, but maybe we lose the dynamics that we need for a severe weather event. But we'll continue to watch this. But for day 6, watch out. Mobile, Alabama, New Orleans, Baton Rouge. There could be some severe weather getting into Wednesday. We'll have to watch this. This is new development. It's basically a slight risk for day 6, level 2 out of 5. So we need to watch this. So really, what's going on here? We'll briefly go over this. You're going to see a lot of pink on this map in the Carolinas. A lot of pink and purple and blue pretty far south. But I'm only showing you the GFS because it's a more broader way. It fills the screen more. We really can get a good idea of how this storm is unfolding. But I want to notice before I show you this, and I'm going to go on to get this out there because there's a chance you're going to see it blasted all over social media by people regardless. And what I want to remind you guys is I'm not trying to give you life lessons as the way that you live your life or anything, but please don't believe everything you see. A lot of people are very gullible when it comes to the weather, and it's because they don't know any better. And you can't fault people for that. But just because, for example, people see a snowflake on their default weather app 6 days out, they immediately tell everybody and their brother that it's going to snow 6 days from now. And then they tell people, and then they tell people. And then suddenly we get 3 days away from that point, and that snowflake turns into a raindrop. But you still got people telling everybody it's going to snow that day. So you see what I'm saying? It's like a wildfire. It's like a chain reaction. But just be careful. I'm going to show you, but because I'm just going to show you the evolution of this storm. So here comes the low pressure. It's riding over the middle of the country. And what happens here? It rips all the dynamics needed up, a lot of low-level moisture into the south, into the western deep south, Gulf Coast. And with it, you got a lot of cold air on top. So it's bringing a lot of heavy snow to the Dakotas. I talked about that in last night's video. This could be very impactful also for Nebraska and then Minnesota. This continues. This low pressure kind of spins away out here. And you got a lot of showers, a lot of storms, severe weather down here in the deep south. It could get kind of nasty down here on the Gulf Coast Wednesday. A lot of snow up here. And it's interesting what happens here. There's cold air. There's high pressure up here, funneling in cold air. A CAD, cold air damming, is beginning to develop all the way down to the Carolinas. Could be a very chilly day, a couple days next week in the Carolinas. A lot of cold air damming days setting up. Whether it brings winter weather or not for whomever, we don't know. But as the system begins to move into the eastern U.S., you can already tell right here, shows a lot of wintry weather all the way down to North Carolina, even upstate South Carolina. Now, please, you're looking at this and you're thinking, holy smacks, we're going to get a winter storm next week for the 15th. That's not the case. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I'm saying that the European and the Canadian model do not agree with this. As far as, now they agree with the system and they agree with cold air damming setting up, meaning cold air getting trapped east of the I was about to say the Rockies, east of the Appalachian Mountains here. But all the models don't agree with this, guys. So the GFS is the coldest, even colder than the Canadian model, which has a cold bias. But this continues. But one thing I want to watch is now you got a low pressure developing down here. Trough is trending deeper down into the central and eastern U.S. We're getting into about 6 days out. And watch how this low pressure forms and suddenly wants to give the I-95 corridor from Washington, D.C. all the way up to Boston a major winter storm as we get into next weekend. Now, we don't know if this is going to happen. One thing that the models do agree on is a lot of cold air is going to funnel in behind this. And there could be a northwest flow event setting up. And I can tell you, even after this system, a lot of energy flying around. A lot of energy flying around, guys. Shows an active pattern all the way through the rest of the holidays. It does. So, interesting times ahead for sure. You look at the European, and like I said, the European does not agree. Same system. Only has freezing rain and ice all the way up to Pennsylvania. Not really much further south than that. It has low pressure plowing right over South Carolina. and shows a significant winter storm for the Northeast, but it's much more inland, all rain for the I-95 corridor in southern New England. Even the Canadian model shows ice a little bit further south than what the European is showing. It shows a nasty wintry mix for midway next week, Wednesday, Thursday. The days are going to bounce back and forth a little bit. The hours are. But it certainly does pop off a major winter storm for the interior areas of the Northeast, but keeps it all rain for the I-95 corridor. So the GFS is on the island with how cold it is, so it's hard to take it very serious right now. But what's going on with the GFS is this is called cold air damming, and the red you see is high pressure. The blues you see is low pressure. High pressure, I know you're thinking, well, doesn't the reds mean a warm air, Mitch? Well, not on this graphic. The reds mean just high pressure. And you see how it comes down and it kind of entrenches itself, if you will, into North Georgia, into the Carolinas. That is cold air damming. So, this has trended more into this. If I go all the way back to, let's see, the run from 5 runs ago, I go all the way to the current run. I mean, look at this. It's trended into a cold air damming situation, but it could turn around and disappear on the next model run. But we certainly need to watch this because it's going to be a tricky situation. It is. I think what's going to end up happening is the Northeast is going to get hit, whether that's New York City to Boston or further inland. And that is going to be the tone-setting storm going forward. And then we have to see what happens after that. It's really difficult to try to figure out because it looks like you're going to have a jet setting up like this. And the southeast ridge is going to still try to flex a little bit. And then there might be enough cold air. In fact, I could see areas like the south central U.S., Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, western Tennessee, maybe even northern areas of Mississippi getting hit before the immediate southeast like the Carolinas in a pattern like this as the cold air continues to get entrenched into the lower 48. Tricky pattern, it really is, guys. So I can tell you, looking at the European ensembles for overnight continues to double down into a pattern change, and you'll start to notice a really big difference as early as midway next week for the southeast, but much earlier than that, if you live in the southern plains of central U.S., it's really going to cool down. If you're in Texas, Oklahoma, the Mississippi Valley, the Mid-South, it's really going to start to cool down. And really, it stays cool through next weekend, and through the foreseeable future, all the way into maybe around Christmas time. It's difficult to figure out what's going to happen past 240 hours out. It's difficult enough to figure out what's going to happen in the next 7 days. So we'll double down on this tonight. We'll get detailed again on this tonight. But let's talk about what's going to happen today. We got some rain. It's just the same old story that's been over the last several days. A lot of rain flying around the Mid-South, the Deep South. Rain showers from the northern areas of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. Some rain will move into South Carolina a little bit later this evening. And even into Georgia, central Georgia, and just rainy up to West Virginia, maybe some ice in the higher elevations of eastern West Virginia begins to show up. We'll have to watch that. Maybe some snow for areas. We'll get a little bit closer look at that here in a second. But another system begins to move through into northern Arkansas. More rain for northern Arkansas, southern Missouri, areas of Oklahoma. We look up to the northeast. Quiet day ahead. Ahead of this little system that's moving through. Here comes some snow flying around from the southern areas of Michigan, maybe even northeast areas of Ohio. Might snow a little bit briefly into the late overnight hours into Cleveland. And then here comes the system right here. Kind of fizzles out, but maybe some snow for far northern VA, western Maryland, far northeast areas of West Virginia. And you just see these little higher terrain areas in those states I just mentioned. Maybe some snow for daybreak tomorrow, but really we continue to move forward here, and moisture begins to amplify again with this system. And I certainly think we got to watch for a quick shot of snow later this weekend for areas in the Northeast, and we'll talk about that a little bit later tonight. But for the south central U.S., rain will begin to become on the increase again in Oklahoma overnight, and then into areas of Missouri, southeast Kansas. And some of you guys could get a rumble of thunder from this. Big moist air mass already building ahead of this upper trough that's about to dig into the western U.S. And some storms from potentially northern areas of Texas, southern areas of Oklahoma, but nothing severe really. But we'll continue to watch this. This will be interesting to see. Maybe you can briefly switch to some snow in a couple hours for areas of Chicago, but this will likely mainly stay rain. this area of snow will make it into Grand Rapids a little bit later this afternoon. But this system will be fizzling out. We'll see how much it holds together. But temperatures, weird day today. If you live in the Carolinas, for example, in my neck of the woods, we're starting off in the 60s, and the temperature is going to be dropping all day, maybe a degree every hour. But you'll notice if you're heading to work in certain areas of the Carolinas, it'll be cooler. I mean, it'll be warmer than when you're heading home from work a little bit later this evening. So enjoy the warm weather while you can in the deep south. 70s, even 80s showing up. It's not going to last forever, guys, but just enjoy it while you can if you're a warm weather fan. Pattern change is on the horizon for sure, guys. So definitely changes are coming. Just a typical December day for these areas, and then locked in winter up here. But that's all I got, guys. Stay tuned for tonight. Big video tonight, guys. I'm going to drop it. And we'll continue to pump out the content regardless of what the views look like. Life ain't all about views. I enjoy doing this, but it's always cool when we can get more growth to the channel, more to the family. But really appreciate the support, guys. Big weekend ahead. Big weekend ahead of figuring out what's going to go on in the foreseeable future, especially with the holidays coming up. God bless all y'all. Have yourselves a great Friday.